Hi everyone and welcome to this talk. I am Ali Darvishi, a PhD student in Learning Analytics at the University of Queensland. Peer review has been recognized as an effective method for promoting higher order thinking while providing students with timely feedback. Yet, some concerns about the quality limit its adoption. In the regular peer review system, students first assess the correctness of content and then fill out a rubric and justify their decision with comments. The main points of concern are that students' evaluations are diverse and their feedback may be ineffective and of low quality. Previous research suggests three explanations for why a student may fail to offer effective feedback. First, they are not equipped with the required skill set to provide high-quality feedback. The second explanation is that a student may be aware of best practices for writing effective feedback, but they may not have the agency to monitor their work following the best practices. And third, they may lack the required incentive to invest the time and efforts as they think quality of their contributions is not reviewed. This paper presents a complementary peer review approach to help mitigate these shortcomings and improve peer feedback. For the required skill set, tips and training materials with examples are provided on how to deliver effective feedback. For the lack of agency to monitor their work, a self-monitoring checklist is incorporated to help students track if their provided comments follows the best practices for writing effective feedback. And finally, for the lack of the required incentive, quality control functions are developed that automatically assess the quality of the submitted feedback and ask students to improve if necessary. First, informed by higher education research on feedback quality, a set of training materials is considered that may help a student provide effective feedback. Students are guided to consider 4 criteria: be aligned with rubrics, be detailed and specific, suggest improvements, and use constructive language. Explicit positive and negative examples of how the recommendations might be used in practice are included in the training. Then, informed by higher education research on self-regulated strategies, a self-monitoring checklist is provided to reinforce the use of the guidelines provided by the training materials and help a student track whether they have used the recommended tips in their feedback. Finally, using recent advances in natural language processing, a set of quality control functions evaluates the submitted text and prompts the student to improve if necessary. In this study, a between-subject experiment is conducted to answer the following research questions. Research question 1. To what extent do students engage with the complementary approach? Research question 2. What is the impact of the complementary approach on peer feedback quality? And research question 3. What is the impact of the complementary approach on a student judgment? For this study, data was collected from two offerings, semester 1 and semester 2, of two undergraduate courses in 2021, Introduction to Information Systems, or INFS, and the Brain and Behavioral Sciences, or NEOR. A student in semester 1 that used the non-complemented peer review interface were considered the control group, and the student enrolled in semester 2 that used the complemented peer review interface were considered the experiment group. Also, we apply propensity score matching to match each student in the experiment group with a student from the control group so that the two students are similar on the set of their characteristics, including their knowledge state, the number of resources that they attempted, and the number of resources that they created. Distributions of the selected characteristics represent the achievement of PSM in reducing the inequalities between the experiment and control groups. Our first hypothesis was that the majority of students would engage with the complementary approach. However, the finding did not support this hypothesis, and roughly half of the students engaged with the interventions explicitly. Also, the data show that the system flagged less than 20% of comments. This result is promising as it suggests that we expected around 80% of the reviews to contain some suggestion or specific detail related to the resource under review. However, when a comment was flagged, the majority of students opt to submit it without a revision. Our second hypothesis was that the complementary approach enables a student to provide higher quality feedback. Collected data validated this hypothesis and showed that students in the experiment group provided significantly longer comments and received more likes. Also, the improvements in the various qualitative features suggest that the complementary approach successfully assisted the students, particularly in providing constructive and more specific feedback. Our third hypothesis was that if a student were more engaged with the feedback, they would be less lenient and more confident in their reviews. Part of our assumption was that more detailed comments might make a student more critical, resulting in a drop in their decision ratings, and similarly it would increase a student's trust in their judgment, resulting in higher confidence rating. Our research, on the other hand, contradicts this hypothesis. These results supported the commonly reported issue of the leniency bias, the tendency to offer mostly positive ratings in self and peer assessment. In summary, we first integrated multiple approaches to address various causes for a student's inability to offer effective feedback, including lack of a skill, agency, or incentive. Second, we utilized cutting-edge AI assistants to automatically analyze the quality of submitted feedback and notify students of areas where there is a room for improvement. And finally, we conducted an in-field between subject study on the impact of interventions on feedback quality, which has implications for the adoption and implementation of feedback tools. We acknowledge three main limitations to the current study. One, the study explored the impact of training, self-monitoring, and quality control functions together as a unified model, which makes it hard to verify the impact of each intervention. Accordingly, a future direction could be to expand the control study to 5 experimental conditions: rubric only, training, self-monitoring, oversight, and the combined model. Second, other than relatedness and explicit suggestions, the quality control functions do not consider other aspects of quality feedback. So future research could address this limitation by fine-tuning NLP models to measure additional features such as alignment and constructive language. Third, the conducted study did not consider a student's demographic and personal information. However, differences in a student's characteristics such as their language proficiencies, native vs non-native speaker, could impact how a student interprets and applies the provided feedback. Therefore, an interesting future direction would be to conduct control experiments that take demographic and personal information of a student into account when interpreting the results. Thank you for your time and attention.